Russell Westbrook has taken the torch from Wilt Chamberlain as the new stat god of NBA basketball. But long before Westbrook's time, there was one player who dominated the stat sheets and became the first and only player for over 40 years to lead the league in points and assists. What's up, my name is Will and welcome to the Legacy of Hoops, where we take a deep look into basketball history. In the Underrated series, we will take a dive into the careers of players who didn't get their just due in the basketball history books. Whether it was because of playing in the shadow of other players, lack of coverage at the time, or simply because their impact faded away over the course of time, these players deserve to have their names mentioned in the old-timer conversations. If you're new to the channel and enjoy these kind of videos, please feel free to leave feedback in the comments and subscribe for more content. Now let's jump into it. As NBA fanatics, we always have the tendency to get caught up in statistics. Well, let me show you the stats of a player over the course of one season. Over 80 games played, he put up 34 points per game and 11.4 assists per game, averaging all of 46 minutes per game. Looking at those stats, you'd probably guess the player to be either LeBron James or Russell Westbrook, maybe even James Harden. No. This is a dive into the underrated legacy of Nathaniel "Tiny" Archibald. Standing at 6'1", the undersized guard played for 5 teams over 14 years in the league, although some of his contemporaries claim that he was not much taller than 5'10". As a standout at the DeWitt Clinton High School, the path to pro basketball was all but easy for Tiny. Often being overlooked by coaches, his first opportunity to play in the NBA came at the hand of a person who could sympathize with Tiny. All-time great point guard Bob Cousy, who had a similar build and style of play as Tiny, and as the coach of the Cincinnati Royals, drafted Tiny in the second round of the 1970 draft.
Well, you've got a player like an Archibald who can create whatever they want at any time they want. You're much better off letting them do it.
When you hear 6'1" and a measly 150 pounds, you don't picture a quintessential NBA star. Furthermore, with these measurements, we as modern NBA fans may think shooter or three-point specialist. No. Tiny was unbelievably quick and shifty in his prime, which he used to his advantage to get to the hoop. With his quickness, he was able to put up crazy numbers throughout his prime and still do it at an efficient clip. He had remarkable physical fitness and was able to play 46 minutes per game in his best season at a high pace. Over the course of 14 years he played in the NBA, he averaged 19 points, 7.5 assists, and 2.3 rebounds, with a field goal percentage of 46.7%. Despite his individual success with the Kings and popularity amongst the fans, Tiny could not translate this into team success. His 1973 34 points per game season was the only season he made the playoffs with the organization, and in the words of his coach Bob Cousy, he was carrying the team on his shoulders. This led to Tiny eventually getting traded at the end of the 1976 season after 6 years with the team. His averages with the Kings were stellar: 25.2 points per game, 8.1 assists per game, playing 40.5 minutes per game. All the metrics projected Tiny to become an all-time NBA legend. However, it was after his departure from the Kings that things started to go wrong. He was traded to the Nets in their first season as an NBA team, where he was injured for most of the year, playing only 34 games. This led to the Nets having the worst record in the league. Hoping to continue the great start to his NBA career, he got traded to the Buffalo Braves at the end of the 1977 season, but tore his Achilles before he ever played a game for them. When you hear Achilles tear as an NBA fan, memories of NBA players who were never the same after one come to mind. Having never suited up for the Braves, he was traded to the Boston Celtics before the beginning of the 1978-79 season. After a year away from the game, rehabbing from injury, he showed up 20 pounds overweight to training camp. In his comeback season, his minutes were limited to 24 per game, and he only managed to put up 11 points per game and 4.7 assists per game. Despite all this, Tiny did manage to become a consistently reliable point guard for the Celtics. And with all-time great teammates such as Larry Bird, Kevin McHale, and Robert Parrish, he was an integral piece when the Boston Celtics won the 1981 championship.
Tiny, come here, Tiny. Tiny Archibald, little man here, but a big man out in the court. The man who directed the attack. Super job out there, Tiny. Had 9 assists in the first half. You've been hurting all this series with the leg. How do you feel about winning it?
Well, I thought we had to keep our poise tonight. I knew they was going to come out fired up. Was this going to be, hopefully, their last game? And we played well. We tried to run the fast break and execute and just go at them. That's all. Just go at them.
How much does the leg really bother you?
Well, you see, I didn't penetrate as much as I could, but I just try to pick my spots and try to keep the team going. And that's my job, Rick. Not to score anymore, but keep the team going. And I'm glad we just won.
Hey, listen, join the fellas. Everybody's going out. They've all left the locker room because they're having the trophy presentation.
While his averages in the regular season were nowhere near those he had put up in his Kings days, his minutes and production went up in the playoffs that year as he proved that he had made a successful comeback from a devastating injury. While his prime was early and short and his career was plagued by injury, when healthy and in shape, Tiny Archibald was one of the most devastating forces on the basketball court, while most of the time being the smallest person too. His name is seldom brought up in the conversation for all-time greatest point guards, and granted there are point guards who sustain greatness at an elite level of play for much longer periods of time than Tiny, I cannot think of many of them who reached the levels of dominance that he did. Tiny was no doubt one of the best players in the 70s, and his accolades speak to that. But since the league was not heavily covered at the time, his name is often left out in NBA discussions. In today's game of small ball and high pace, I think he could have the similar impact of a Dame Lillard or a Kyrie Irving. This is all of course given that he remains healthy and in good shape. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed it, leave a like and a comment below, and if you enjoy the NBA and its history, subscribe for more content.